So the text paragraph, the subheading and the main heading are all very similar. In fact, the only real difference is that the heading and subheading inserts a web code, an HTML code, which search engines will love you for having. For those who want to know, it's the H1 and the H2 tag. Otherwise, the heading, subheading and paragraph operate in all the very similar way. So we'll use a text paragraph one here, which is entered into the page. And by default, I can drag the top space and the bottom space. I can also increase the text up and down by dragging the T icon. I can duplicate it and I can delete it. So what can we do with it? Well, let's get rid of the headline and leave us with just the paragraph. The less common features you access by clicking on the element, which to start with allows you to edit it and access the various buttons across the top here. Blue ones are clickable buttons, grey ones are draggable, and I'll demonstrate that in a second. But let's just quickly go through the various buttons. So to start with, typical left, centre, right, and if there was lots of text, full justification. This one turns text into a bullet list and takes it back off again, which may be useful at the right time. Colour-wise, if you pick a colour, and these are classic conversion colours here to get you started, or you can click on the drop down here and pick your own colour that you want. I'll stick with the classic ones. These icons allow you to change all of the text, or if I wanted to change one word or more than one word, I can then just tint the individual word itself. The next icon allows me to change the background of the element. So let's pick something, I'm going to shade this down here with this opacity and click on the background, which makes it a light green. The next one is the border of the element. So I'll pick a gaudy red and make the border red. Moving along, we can add a drop shadow. So let's add black and click and drag the drop shadow. Yep, so I click and whichever direction I'm going in, it adds the text shadow. The next one along is the drop shadow of the element itself. And finally, this sort of dartboard one allows me to center and do a sort of a glow all the way around the element. If I pick a color and make the blue and very blurred, then clicking on the center will keep it very blurred. If I had no shadow on here at all, I'll go to black and just clicking on it when there's no shadow just puts a nice one around it. Like that. I've already added a blur, so it's taken what I've done already, but if you didn't have a drop shadow around the element, it would just do a nice blur shadow around the element itself. Okay, font wise, I can choose a font and apply it to the whole element. You cannot select individual words, you have to apply it to the whole element. There are limitations on purpose to ensure that you don't go crazy with your design elements. You keep them in check, if you like. So you can change the font of a single element, and I'll click on here just to demonstrate that if I duplicate that, I can then click in this one and change the element text of that one separately. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so back to editing here. This is a draggable width selector. This is the vertical padding, and this is the horizontal padding. Next we can rotate. Next is the border radius, and finally the border size. And the last one allows me to change the border style. Now it's dashed at the moment because it's showing me that I'm editing this element, but if I click on this it can show you what other options we have. Okay. So that's how you can affect an individual element. It works nicely, and I'm not going to go into detail here particularly, but if you edit the container in which the element sits, then you can combine some nice effects accordingly. And that is the text and headline.